Genesis. According to the book of Genesis, God creates the world through a series of actions spread across 6 days. First comes light, which separates day from night. Then the sky appears as a space between the waters. Land rises, plants grow, and the basic shape of the world forms. After that, the sun, moon, and stars take their place to mark time. Life in the sea and the sky follows, and then animals on land. Humans come last, made in the image of God, and given responsibility over the rest of creation. The sequence is simple and intentional, and it presents a world that comes together step by step with no struggle or conflict. On the 7th day, God stops his work and rests, marking the cycle that becomes the basis for the weekly rhythm in many Christian traditions. Genesis. In Judaism, the creation story also comes from Genesis, and many readings focus on how God brings order to a formless beginning. The text describes stages that match the Christian version, with light, sky, land, plants, lights in the sky, animals, and humans appearing across 6 days. Jewish tradition often pays close attention to the language of each verse and to the structure of the week. Rabbinic commentary explores how God separates and organizes different parts of creation and what this means for ideas such as rest, work, and responsibility. Some teachings also emphasize that God continues to sustain the world, so creation is not only a past event, but an ongoing reality. The 7th day, Shabbat, becomes a central sign of this pattern in Jewish life. Quranic Passages. In Islam, the creation of the world appears throughout the Quran in short and direct passages. Allah creates the heavens and the earth in 6 periods, and none of these efforts bring fatigue or struggle. The descriptions focus on order and purpose rather than a step-by-step sequence. The sky is raised without visible pillars, the earth is spread out, and mountains help keep it stable. Water becomes the source of living things, and life follows under Allah's command. Humans are formed from clay, and they receive knowledge and responsibility. Islamic teachings often emphasize that creation shows the power of Allah and that the world is a sign to reflect on. The message highlights clarity and intention rather than a dramatic story, which gives the account a calm and structured tone. Golden egg. In Hindu tradition, one well-known creation story describes Brahma emerging from a golden egg that appears in the early universe. From this egg comes light, space, and the basic shape of the world. Brahma then forms the land and the waters and sets the sky in place. Plants and animals follow as the world gains structure. Humans appear later, and many versions link their role to maintaining balance in the world. Hindu teachings include several creation accounts, but this one stands out because it explains the birth of the universe as a natural expansion rather than a single event. The idea of cycles is common, and creation is often seen as one stage in a process that repeats over vast periods of time. This gives the story a broad and flexible view of how everything begins. Kalpa Cosmology. Buddhism does not present a single moment when the world begins. Instead, it describes a universe that goes through endless cycles of formation and decline. There is no first cause and no creator who triggers the process. Worlds appear as conditions change, and they disappear when those conditions fade. Life arises in many forms, shaped by actions and the results of those actions. The focus stays on how beings move through these cycles, rather than on a dramatic starting point. Some texts explain that when a world forms, beings take shape based on their state from previous cycles. This view removes the idea of a fixed creation event and presents the universe as an ongoing series of transitions. It highlights change as a constant feature rather than a one-time event. Eternal universe. Jainism teaches that the universe has no starting point and no creator behind it. It exists on its own, without a moment when everything suddenly appears. The cosmos moves through long cycles of rise and decline, and these cycles unfold naturally. Time has no clear start, and nothing outside the universe shapes its structure. Matter and souls are always present, and their interaction explains how life appears and changes. The focus stays on the behavior of living beings, since actions influence future conditions. This view keeps the universe stable and independent, with no need for a divine maker or a first spark. It stands out for its direct and self-contained explanation of how reality works. Heliopolitan Creation. In one major Egyptian tradition, creation begins with a boundless mass of water called Nun. From this water, a small mound rises, and Adam appears on it as the first being. Adam brings the world into shape through his own actions, producing the first gods who then help form the sky, the earth, and the air. The world develops as these gods take on their roles and bring order to a space that was once without structure. Light and life spread as the divine family expands. The story highlights the idea of creation as an act of emergence rather than sudden change. It explains how order grows out of a silent and endless sea, and it presents the world as something that takes form step by step as the gods organize it. Enuma Elish. In the Babylonian story known as the Enuma Elish, Marduk becomes the central figure in the creation of the world. The tale begins with a conflict among the gods, which leads to a battle between Marduk and Tiamat, a powerful figure linked to the sea. After defeating her, Marduk uses her body to shape the structure of the world, placing the heavens above and the earth below. He then organizes the sky, sets the stars in their paths, and assigns roles to the other gods. Humans appear later as helpers meant to lessen the workload of the gods. This account presents creation as the result of action and force rather than peaceful formation. It explains the world as something built through victory and organization, which gives the story a dramatic and structured tone. Bundahishn. Zoroastrian tradition describes creation as part of a long struggle between Ahura Mazda and the destructive spirit Angra Mainyu. Ahura Mazda forms the world in several stages, beginning with the sky, followed by water, earth, plants, animals, and the first human. Each step strengthens the side of order and goodness. The world takes shape as a place where this conflict plays out, and every part of creation has a role in keeping balance. Time moves through set periods, and creation marks the start of a larger plan that leads toward a final resolution. The account is structured and steady rather than dramatic, and it focuses on the idea that the world exists with a clear purpose in a larger conflict between truth and disorder. Pangu. One well-known Chinese creation story describes Pangu waking inside a dark and silent egg. As he grows, the shell breaks, and the lighter parts rise to form the sky, while the heavier parts fall to form the earth. Pangu stands between them to keep them apart as he continues to grow. When his strength fades, his body becomes the features of the world. His breath becomes the wind, his voice becomes thunder, and his blood becomes rivers. Mountains rise from his bones, and plants come from his hair. His final act turns his body into the structure of the natural world. This story explains creation as a slow and physical process shaped by a single being whose form becomes the landscape people live in. Kojiki. In Shinto tradition, creation begins when Izanagi and Izanami stand on the floating bridge of heaven and stir the sea with a sacred spear. When they lift it, drops fall and form the first island. The couple descend to this new land and continue shaping the islands of Japan. As they move, more land takes shape, and the natural world grows around them. The story highlights the close link between divine action and the landscape. The gods do not create everything at once. Instead, the world forms as they explore, speak, and interact with their surroundings. Later events lead to the birth of other key deities who influence light, storms, and growth. The account stays grounded in simple actions that slowly define the structure of the world. Popol Vuh. The Popol Vuh, a key Maya text, describes several attempts by the gods to create beings who could live in the world and understand their makers. Early versions fail, so the gods try new materials until they shape humans from maize. This grain is central to Maya life, so the choice connects people with the land and the daily cycle of growth. The gods give these new humans the ability to speak and recognize the world around them, which completes the creative process. The story links creation with agriculture and shows how humans depend on the same forces that guide plants and seasons. It explains human origins in a direct and practical way, tied to the most important resource in Maya society, Ymir Cosmogony. In Norse tradition, the world begins in a space between fire and ice. As the heat meets the cold, a giant named Ymir forms. His body produces other beings, and from this early group come the gods who later shape the world. After Ymir dies, the gods use his body to build the main parts of the earth. His flesh becomes the land, his blood becomes the seas, and his bones become mountains. His skull forms the sky, and sparks from the fire realm become stars. The world takes shape through these physical changes, and the new order replaces the earlier emptiness. This account presents creation as a direct transformation of a giant body into the landscape people live in, which gives the story a solid and concrete tone. 5 suns. Aztec tradition explains the world through a series of eras called suns. Each sun marks a different version of the world, and the first 4 end in destruction. The current era, known as the 5th sun, begins when the gods gather to create a new world. One deity offers himself by stepping into the fire, and this act brings the sun into motion. Another god follows with a separate sacrifice, and together these actions give the world its light. The new sun needs constant support, so the gods expect continued offerings from humans to keep it moving across the sky. This story presents creation as a result of effort and commitment rather than sudden change, and it connects the shape of the world with the ongoing relationship between humans and the divine. Across these accounts, creation takes many forms, from careful planning to long cycles and dramatic transformations. Each story explains how the world begins in a way that reflects the values and ideas of the tradition behind it.